What up? What's up, guys? All right, we're going live with some friends, including some special guests, and of course, Dugan Ashley. Hang tight while I get everybody in. What up, what up, what up? Joshy, what's cracking, fam? All right, so let's keep an eye out for our guests coming in. Peyton's Outdoor Adventures. Christian, ban this account. What's up, guys? Thanks for jumping in. Oh. And we got our first guest, Dugan Smashley.
How's it going?
What's up,
and hi.
How you doing? Well, I can't hear any audio.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yep.
Okay. We have two guests on here, or going to be coming on here soon. One of them is Shall Not. He's been with you and us for a while now. And the other gentleman is the one with the controversy behind him. The gentleman that people thought were complaining about a certain word, but turned out to just be sarcasm. So we're waiting on him. So what's up, man? You had a long drive today? You said something about you had training?
Yeah. I did a government training program.
Yeah.
And it's through DNR. So it's the entire state or a region of the state. It's like a lot of different counties. So there's a wide swath of people there. Well, one of the things that's really interesting is that the instructor is just like, I mean, I don't know. I guess first I should say that it people are batshit, and they're not capable of the logic that's necessary to decipher trickery and bullshit, and so they have to accept all this stuff but they know deep down inside that it's not true, right? That's what's crazy about it. It's like there's layers of consciousness, and the layers that detect what's going on, that know that something's wrong. They're very deep, and so they're hard to disable. And then there's an upper level, like a superficial level, and that's where most people operate at. And so it kind of defeats the rest of it, but the underlayer is like the true one. So it's like impossible to completely suppress. So this guy's giving, it's a DNR employee, and he's giving a instructional class. And then, because of the situation politically in the United States, he can't stop talking about what's going on. And it's not like this guy's not a, who described this guy? This is a guy that, it's a dude that he when you come here, he's like, okay, if you guys want to grab masks, you can go ahead and put on masks, and then you can wear them, and then when you sit down, when you find a seat, you can take your mask off. That's the kind of person that we're talking about. So this is like a full Kool-Aid person, and they can't. Certainly if they realize the gravity of what they were talking about when they're doing a class, and they're talking about all of the, he's describing I just don't understand what's going on. I hope everything gets back to normal. We've got one president that refuses to leave, one president that supposedly isn't rightfully elected. We've got, he's just basically, regurgitating everything from both sides of NSM. And they're combating in his brain, and he's talking out loud, and he'll just continually slip it into the end of, each, every time that he starts talking and doing a PowerPoint, he can't help it. but he's not unique, right? Like that's the point of this. The point of me telling you this is that this guy isn't unique. This is the mind of every person in the United States right now. So everybody that doesn't understand what's going on, or is like furthest from understanding what's going on, is at the same level of uncomfortability as this guy. This guy is at like the full fucking, like, I don't know if I'm a communist or a conservative, and I'll have a large glass of Kool-Aid, please.
He can't find his middle ground. He's being torn between all sides.
Well, now what I'm saying is that they have torn it. So this guy would have
Yeah.
easily, I'm sure if he went back to the 90s, I'm sure this guy would have easily understood his place. He can't understand his place, and that is the game of bending the stick. The like it should be obvious by now with the way that the protest went at the White House, and then the way that I have like 5 simultaneous points that I want to make here. I'm trying to organize it.
Well,
so that
before you go on, Dugan, let's take a quick second to welcome our guest, and then we'll get it correct.
Hello.
I did take the liberty of muting you guys just to make sure when you're not talking. I noticed when I actually rewatched the stream, just mute while we're not talking so we don't cut out each other's audio. So let's go ahead and welcome Shall Not. Shall Not, you want to give us a little bit of background and who you are, what brought you here?
Doug, I guess.
Hello.
Howdy.
How are you?
Welcome.
Good. How are you?
So give us a little background, Shall Not.
Oh shit. I am a
What do you
person.
think? What do you think? What do you think about like what's going on? Like, what's your like? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about people around you? If you don't want to talk about yourself.
It's pretty screwed up. I know things are at a pretty whacked out level right now, because I got a text from my mom last night asking if I had heard any crazy news in the world, and she's like probably as normal a person as you could get. So even people like that know some. What's that?
Was she asking you, like, trying to figure out like some shred of sanity to explain what's going on?
Pretty much. That's kind of what it sounded like, and I had gone back and forth for quite a while whether or not I should even broach the subject with her, because it's the level is just insane to try and convey to people who have no idea how fucked up shit is, what's going on. And I tried to kind of candy coat it, and but I think she has. What's that?
Sorry, I'm gonna try to find some. You go ahead. I'm getting feedback, so I'm gonna try some headphones so that I don't give that to you guys. One minute.
Right. What? Hey, and the other gentleman, Lobo Vobi.
Hello.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Oh, Baba, your audio is horrible right now.
Whoa.
Hold on. Any better?
You got to get. There we go. That's better.
There
You
you
got to
go.
get closer to the router. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a tin can right now, man.
That's perfect.
I'm out in my garage right now, so it's like a big tin can, But what's up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah, we got
Good,
you.
man. Welcome.
We're hanging in, man.
Lobby
How's
bye-bye.
everything doing? It looks. Lobby
Lobby
bye-bye. Okay.
Lobby bye-bye.
That sounds like a
It looks.
freaking
It
Jedi.
looks cold as hell up there.
Yeah, it's cold up here, man. It's central Wisconsin. It's actually pretty nice for this time of year. It's a pretty good climate right now, considering the political climate.
As you
Yeah.
with the breath coming out. It's pretty nice. It's
You
like
see that?
that's great.
I'm
how we
in
do it here.
Florida. I got shorts and flip flops on.
That's nice, man. It's I envy you right now.
Yeah, it's like
Dude,
30.
if it gets below 70, I can't live life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent some years in Arizona and Utah, and it's quite a bit different. Utah could get pretty cold, but
Yeah, Arizona is the high desert, right?
yeah.
Utah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
Arizona's the desert, but Utah has a lot of high desert.
Okay. Yeah, I know the high desert, you fry in the daytime and you freeze at night.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't do that, man. That's too much of a temperature swing.
Utah. Give me two.
YouTube, Utah,
You remember? Johnny Utah.
Johnny Utah. I do barely.
Somebody joke in chat.
Hey, I hope y'all know I'm armed tonight. Nobody come on my property.
Tell me
There ain't nothing wrong with that. So yeah, hey, I heard your last guest. He was starting to talk about how screwed up this whole situation is, how fucked up this is, and I wanted to say something about all the different media we're getting from all over the place, everywhere, man. All kinds of different opinions, all kinds of different viewpoints. There's a lot of there's a lot of speculation going on. Everyone trying to figure out what the hell is going on, almost to themselves. A lot of people think they know what's going on, and a lot don't. And I don't even know the full aspect of what's going on. But it's from every direction, all the time, all kinds of different stories. I saw.
It's meant to overload you. That's the whole premise of it.
Yeah, for sure. I saw an article. I saw 2 different Vox articles directed at the left and the right, and they were completely polar opposite articles. I don't even remember what they were on, but they were polar. They were on the riots, and they were completely polar opposite. And we all know what's going on with the riots. What happened all frickin' summer long,
Mm-hmm.
and and then how some people flew off the handle at the Capitol building, and yeah, it's intense to say the least. All of us are waiting to see what happens, what's going on. We're all waiting, and for me, I've always been pretty far right. I've always been pretty conservative. It's how I was raised. Second Amendment family, big hunting family. We do a lot of hunting. I do a lot of bow hunting. I'm actually not that big into guns, but the way I was raised, I was real conservative. And going into this election, I feel now like I was really fooled with what's going on, following Trump, and thinking that was the only path, thinking that was the only set of tracks that I needed to be on, heading in one direction. And when I, listening to your guys' podcast, listening to you guys talk, and listening to the open speech of it, and it just got me thinking a little bit. Like I need to question myself, and I did. And I removed myself from being a Trump supporter, a right winger. I removed myself from that. And I took a step back and I questioned everything that I was seeing, that they were telling me, that they were telling all of us. And it completely changed my outlook. It completely changed my outlook.
I don't mean to take away from this, but Dugan, this was the gentleman that you made a live stream about, and he sent me a email, so I'll let you talk with him. Like I said, he said it was sarcasm, but it was taken the wrong way, and there was no ill will.
Well, I kind of wish that it was like the offensive. Well, I wouldn't be offended. I wish that it was a sensitive thing, because I was going to commend you on like your manliness, like standing up, like coming and talking to us, because that's cool. A lot of people don't do that these days,
Well,
it's admirable either way. It's cool.
Well,
cool to see you here.
It's cool to be talking to you guys, after watching it and wanting to be a part of it. I wanted to be part of it, you know what I mean? Be a part of the open conversation and challenge people to think from a different point, put yourself in a different perspective, several different.
That's
Well,
one of the biggest things, man.
yeah.
Like I respect for coming on. I respect y'all. You sound like you guys have been hanging around for a while, and the fact that you took the thought of like removing yourself from the position in your program to reevaluate kind of where you are. That most people don't even think like that. So kudos to you for.
Well, thank you, man. It's just as hard as having empathy for another human being. It's the same thing. It's one and the same, I think.
I think one of the things that's almost like people want it like a drink of fresh water, but they don't know it because they're really kept from the watering hole. Everybody just wants transparency, but not like transparency of a like no one wants transparency where it's a designated government entity or private entity researching everything. What they really want, like what would be appropriate if we were really free, would be if there was a public commission to investigate the entire government in a public way, where it's just like, okay, what we're going to do is reset classification. Nothing's classified anymore, and we're just gonna dump out the Google box on the table here, and just rummage through the papers with a live television camera, and we're not gonna have any experts. There's no experts. There's nobody that's from a think tank. Nobody getting paid. Nobody that's off CNN or Fox. These are just people that live in Connecticut or Indiana or Alabama or whatever, and they just go to DC and just dump out all the files and just like start looking at it and being like, okay, I don't understand this shit. What is this right here? And then the government has to like provide an an expert to give like testimony on it or whatever. That I think something like that would really benefit people. Of course, I mean that's not going to happen. That's just kind of a pipe dream, just kind of a fantasy.
Doug, wouldn't you like it if we had elders from all 50 states, like Sharon, when we had Mr. Matthew King on the podcast, how they picked the elders out of each little community, and they were the ones that, whether they liked it or not, they had to run the situation until, whenever they got the next generation came.
They had like a council of elders. They got to call the shot.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, but we're really far from that. I mean, we're really far from that in terms of the government working that way. We're also really far from that in that they're fixing to go the opposite of that, and so it's the last thing that they want to do, and so it's never going to happen. But
yeah, we don't want to hear people's voices. We don't want to hear people speak with their own thoughts.
There's no scrutiny at all except through an approved channel. Like it's only there's no scrutiny at all with the government. It's just completely running buck wild. Like there's no oversight whatsoever. Nobody even knows. I mean, it's absolute. Totally, literally, no one knows how big the government is. There are independent executive agencies that are approved by Congress that are within like the National Security Act, so they're not publicly disclosed. So they're like agencies similar to like the FBI or the ATF or the NRO or the GSA that aren't even like GSA and NRO and stuff. That stuff's like super secret shit. There are independent executive agencies that have budget. They draw a budget. They're not even publicly. They're not. It's classified, so that like the general public doesn't even know what they are. So like literally no one has any idea how big or what the composition of the United States government is, and that's a position that we're at in 2020, and it's just kind of a symptom of the greater problem. Like I could talk to just try to describe what's going on, but I almost think like a parallel analogy is kind of better. And what I would talk about would be the German Revolution. Does any of you guys got the computer in front of you?
I can right now if you need me.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be awesome. If you could pull up the German Revolution so that we can pull like names and information out of it, just because it'll kind of enriching the background story because there's no way I could remember all this shit at this point. But
All right, give me 1 second.
Occupado with the stream.
Yeah,
the German
I
Revolution.
actually, my bad. What, the 1848 revolution or the 1918?
The 1918.
By the way, I'm take this quick second of downtime to let you know, Lobi, I muted you just for a second. We were catching some feedback. So next time before you chat, just click unmute before you talk.
We're still trying to get the hang of all the different streaming services we're on to be able to make it sound pretty.
Yeah.
All right, what are you looking for in the German Revolution, Dugan?
Well, first of all, when is the German Revolution, and when does World War One? And when does Germany surrender in World War One?
The German Empire at the end of the First World War that resulted in the replacement of the German federal constitution, monarchy, democratic parliament became known as the Weimar Republic.
Weimar, yeah, Weimar.
The revolutionary lasted November 18th until the adoption of the Weimar Constitution in August 1919.
Yeah. Okay. So they were. I'm pretty sure that they're still engaged in the war when the revolution takes place, right? In that November of 1918.
It was saying
Can you look up World War?
Yeah, right after the First World War is when the Weimar Revolution began. Is what they're showing.
Oh, okay.
It probably was starting.
Combat has ended.
Yeah, combat has ended. What they're saying.
Okay, I don't know if that's. I think there's actually still combat going on. Like I think the revolution like ends the combat period. It's like the closeout. So basically, what happened? Like if people aren't familiar with this, it's a really good. So Germany, you know, and this is if you're like really fuzzy on history. So most people know about Germany as Nazi Germany. Germany is not Nazi Germany. So Germany was around for a long time prior to Nazi Germany, and they used to be the superpower. So if you went back to the like starting in like the Civil War era in the United States up till World War One, Germany was just like steamrolling everybody, like the best technology, just light years. Like they were like us. They had.
It was the second highest spoken language in the U.S.
In the U.S., yeah. It was a massive influence on the culture here. There are tons of German immigrants in the United States, in most of the blood in the U.S. in one way or another. The German nation itself was, extremely. It was on the edge in a lot of ways. It was on the edge in, both arts, media, technology, war machine. Like in World War One, Germany was considered like the most capable military in the world. It wasn't the United States. The United States, like us being primal, didn't come about until post World War One. Like after we were like slated to be that. That's when we built the identity of that. Prior to this, it was Germany. Germany was like the wild boys. So Germany was kicking ass in World War One. I'm not going to get into specifics because we could be talking about it for a long time. But a lot of people think that like Germany just like started a war and lost. That's not what happened. What happened was Germany was a world superpower, and so they were having to do diplomatic shit like go and talk to other countries all over the world for their international status to upkeep that. And that's where you get the Archduke Ferdinand getting assassinated in where the hell did he get assassinated? Sarajevo? Where the hell did he get assassinated at?
Hold on.
Was it Russia?
I'll find out. And
So the Archduke
thought that was Russia.
It probably
Anastasia,
is Russia.
Archduke Ferdinand. Yeah. Anastasia.
So they get it now. What's the clan that the guy that assassinates him? Can you click on that link and see what it says about him? The assassin. It should be like Grecio or something like that. Greco. My memory's so bad.
Was it Gavrilo Principi?
Yeah, Gabriel. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Gabriel. That's what it was. Okay, so what's his organization that they say? Is it Black Hand? Oh shit, we just lost Cliff. Okay. So anyway, so
Oh,
what happened? So what happened? They were distended, going and doing international talks with leaders and shit, and then they start getting allies assassinated, and then because they're in these international alliances that are very formalized and like we've got your back, dog. They were like, okay, we're going to war now, and so they declare war on Russia, and then that opens up the entire unfolding of the war. And then Germany was like, their position was like, we're in the right. We're just trying to be the best country we can be. And then we get these anarchists assassinate
It's
our allies, and we're going to stand up for them.
the Black Hand.
Yeah, the Black Hand. Now the Black Hand is an international, super smoky, super misty. Can't find them, can't pin them down. Nobody knows where they're at. Just talked about in history books type of organization, and they should be they're actually they're a subset. That's like a small subset of a greater organization that is called the Democratic. Oh shit! Does it say in there in the description? There's a greater organization that has a socialist group that is in Germany.
It was formed unofficial, known as the Black Hand, was a secret military society formed in 1901 by officers in the army of the Kingdom of Siberia.
Well, it should say something. So basically, the people that are involved in the Black Hand are also involved in the greater socialist organization through Europe and in Germany. And so what happens is the Germans fight this war. They are winning. So the war broke out in 1914, and then the United States doesn't come in until they really don't start coming in until like 1918 is when they really start kicking ass like in a big way and making a name for themselves.
They're known as Unification or Death, aka the Black Hand.
Well,
I'm
it's
not
all
seeing
it's
anything
all
else.
okay. Well, maybe we'll use a computer for hyperlinks for stuff so we can. I should probably be in front of a computer to do it, but the that's fine. So the Black Hand is in a lot of ways is similar to Antifa. So Antifa is an organization that nobody can pin down. We have we purportedly have the top intelligence apparatus in the world. We have like state partners for the entire planet, and nobody can figure out or punish or hold accountable Antifa. They just get a free pass. This is exactly the same thing that happened with the Black Hand. And so because it's now the big difference between the Black Hand incident and like Antifa is that number one, it's an assassination of a royalty. And so it like demands at that time, because you're on the tail end of the monarchistic period of absolutism, it demands that these new nation states like hold the anarchists to account. And so that's why they end up going to war with Russia, because they can't get justice because everybody's just trying to cover up the Black Hand, right? So they go to war, and then Germany kicks everybody's ass. So Germany is like one little country, very small in relationship to all the countries that they're fighting, even with their allies, even with Bosnia and Turkey and all their alliance. Well, I'm getting major feedback
Equal,
tripping me out.
equal to the right, Doug. Like if you were to kind of like the right of today in America.
Yeah, they're similar. They're similar. Now like what was crazy about World War I that they really try to erase from history, but is very apparent if you read newspaper articles. So Library of Congress is really good for this because they keep digital articles, and it's fascinating to go through and look at newspapers in the United States about World War I, because when you read them from all over the country, number one, you're going to get, if you look it up, you're going to get a shitload of German language newspapers, because especially on the coast, like on the East Coast, New York, there were nearly an equal number of prominent German language newspapers as there were English newspapers. and they were competitive. They weren't like second newspapers. They were like primo news. Those are all gone now after the war. But what happened was the international media, because Germany was in our position of like, you're the leader of the world, the leader of the free world, you have to do what's right. The media coaxed them into not backing down, into being like the tough guy and policing the world. And so Germany wouldn't back down because they had somebody assassinated, and they felt that the terms were not just of the like post investigation, and then it ended up leading to war.
I feel like that's the corner they're backing us into now.
Yeah, it's always the same thing. And so where it went from there was that they had a giant war. Germany did really well. So Germany developed a bunch of military technology for their nation only, and didn't divulge it to any other nations. So they developed a lot of like chemical weapons. They developed a lot of their explosives were really advanced. They had like more like their artillery shells could penetrate more armor when tanks started coming in. Like everything was advanced, better than everybody else. They had submarines, and nobody knew about submarines. So like before World War One, other than the Civil War submarine, like nobody. They did the Civil War submarine. It was kind of a shit boat, and they never really did it again. Germany made U-boats. So Germany made like a fully fledged, like, naval U-boat fleet that was completely capable of like leaving and like just swimming up to England if they wanted to, or anything, and attacking anybody, and nobody could do anything about it. So because they didn't have submarines, and they had no counter submarine warfare tactics. So like Germany was just like sweeping house. They got England. They destroyed all of England's supplies, who was the principal aggressor besides Russia. And they destroyed all their supplies, and they beat England all the way back to their shores, to where England was like pretty much sitting there going, I hope they don't invade inland. Let's get ready for that. And they quit issuing ammunition and guns and stuff to try to reserve. And then they just waited for the United States to get deployed. And that took a lot of coaxing in the press. And so what's really interesting about the newspapers is that the international media would talk about Germany in the beginning of the war, like particularly 1914 and 1915. Like, look at Germany's great guns. Like, their guns are so powerful. Their military tactics are so advanced. They're so great. And like, wow, what a sight. And they would talk about all their different, the Big Bertha, like the term Big Bertha, that's a name for a giant German gun. They would discuss all this stuff in the papers, and you can find the old papers in the Library of Congress. Well, when you find them, especially if you're not familiar with actual history, it's very confusing, because it demands an explanation. Because here you are thinking, like, the United States was against Germany. Why are all the New York newspapers like pimping Germany and trying to make Germany look great? Well, there's a reason for that, which is beyond the scope of this, so we won't talk about the flip. But needless to say, what happened was there was a sudden, like within a month, a flip in the entire international apparatus, where they were like, okay, fuck Germany now. And then everybody dumped on Germany. They got all of their tactical information compromised. Like, they didn't understand that there were, like, the entire machine that they had built was built on hollow studs. Every War Department office, everybody that they purchased through, like all their suppliers and stuff, they could all freely discuss like everything that was going on secretly. And so like Germany could never, like, no matter how good their technology was, and no matter how many bodies they were slaying, they just started to get defeated. And then the United States comes in, and then that's it. And that's like the end of that.
Didn't Bernays have a hand in the propaganda?
Yeah. So Edward Bernays is the propaganda father in the United States, and he was in an organization called CIP, which is an equivalent to the the war press department. And so all of the stuff where it's like the Hun, like the Hun posters, and don't sleep on guard duty. The Hun is coming. They're going to slit your throats and like kill your babies. That's all through
Babies on fucking bayonets.
Yeah. They made films about it. So there's a bunch of World War I films where the Germans come through and like, like they've got like beer steins and they're like smashing the beer. They're like silent films, so they're like smashing the beer steins and like drinking, shards of glass and beer, and then like going into a Red Cross hospital and like grabbing babies and throwing them out windows and stuff. I mean, it's just all ludicrous stuff. It's not.
I've heard about that, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah, it's all out there. I've got some of the. I have one of the movie. I think actually download one of them.
Hey, Dugan, eyes
yeah.
to see, ears to hear said, do you think the Arab Rav have promised the U.S. to China a consolation prize for being their number one bitch?
Yeah, they have.
Hey,
but let me finish this point. There's a long point on China or on Germany. Let me just I'll round it out here. But I wanted to give background just to give you the parallels, right? Because it's eerily similar. Now, the main thing to understand is that what happened was when Germany got committed to the international war, they're all the way in. So they're not, I mean, like when the battlefield flipped, there were no troops on German soil. So Germany was in everybody else's country, like slaying ass, and nobody was in Germany. Germany was winning, and then it all turned around, and Germany was completely caught off guard. It was extremely confusing, and then they had millions of men get killed in the war. So they just slowly started like getting killed off, and the state apparatus that was German couldn't understand or like rationalize like what was going on. They just figured it was just like luck of the draw or something. And then once the U.S. came in, well, they figured that out later. They figured out the stab in the back stuff came later. So like before this, they didn't have like the stab in the back was all like, socialite talk, like high German echelon talk of like, oh, we're getting stabbed in the back. They're fucking us. But even the troops didn't know that. The troops are just concerned about like, living or dying. Well, they died. Like they killed a ton of them, and then it opened the country up to being undefended, and the political apparatus, like the traditional German Empire, was completely humiliated. And the Kaiser actually left and fled to Holland because they started doing socialist revolutions at the height. So to understand this, what the flavor was, they got the entire world to attack Germany, pumped them up to get them to get distended, then deployed the entire world to pick them off, and then killed a bunch of their men like mercilessly. It was like, oh, now it's our turn, and they just like wouldn't stop killing them. And then so the men were all like stranded through Europe getting picked off. It left all the civilians and women and children at home, like all the war widows and orphans and stuff. And then the banks came through and bought everything in Germany. So like while everything was weak, the banks bought everything, and the socialists did destabilization in the media so that nobody could. It was just hysterical, and nobody could understand what was going on. It was just like, oh, now there's socialism. Nobody had ever heard of socialism. It was the first time that this was happening simultaneously to the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Russia simultaneously had to get they pulled. So when Russia was fighting Germany, Germany killed millions of Russian soldiers. Like they were wiping out the Russians, and so it's Austria, and the Russians started getting socialist revolutions at home at the peak of their troop deployment. So when all their men were gone, that's when the huge socialist uprisings started in Russia. Although they didn't call them socialists, I don't think at that time. They were like the Menshevik and the Bolshevik parties, and the labor parties, and nobody could understand like the big picture of what was going on. Nobody could see it. Everybody's just like, wow, everything's chaos. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody felt vulnerable. And so this happened in Germany at the same time. Two different, very, very different fates. Russia got its leadership like massacred, and then they were super brutal in killing each other until the Bolsheviks were there only, because they were actually in the Russian Revolution. There were like 5 different factions, all very powerful. They had during the Russian Revolution, they had a faction called the Whites. The Whites were going to make a constitutional republic modeled off the United States, and they were funded by like private entities in the United States trying to accomplish that. They lost. They got all killed, and a lot of them had to flee. The Germans were, on the other hand, they had like, because they got so fucked up from the war and they had so many war veterans because they were pretty much like 100% mobilized because they were fighting the entire world. He was a soldier, and so they had a lot of their men in the war, but they had some, they still had some blood at home. And so those guys made the militias, and then the militias went and killed all of the socialists. Now, the way that their socialist uprising started with their navy, they had like positions.
We're losing you, Dugan.
Hello.
We
You got me or no?
There you
You're
are.
back.
Okay, I'm back. Am I good now?
Lima Charlie.
Okay, sweet.
Lima Charlie.
Okay, so sorry. I know I said I was going to wrap this up, and then it's just turned into a long story. But it's important. It's fucking important. Okay, I promise you.
And
This is the juicy part.
Your German story mirrors the Russian story, the Bolshevik story. It mirrors the communist revolution story.
The
And
Chinese.
China, correct? I mean, it's all pretty close to the same sentiment behind it all.
It's the same thing.
Like
It's the same.
traveling down right now.
Same thing.
It's the
And,
same.
You were talking about the Germans before too, and I look at what's going on here with the ammo shortage. I mean, everyone knows about it. You walk into a store, and if it's there, it's expensive. If it's there, imagine how easy it will be for another administration with the shelves empty the way they are. If they were to some sort of executive order or something, how fast that could go and shut off for the civilians.
A lot of people, because they're in the pattern of not thinking and only listening to the narrative, it's really easy to assume. And I don't know this, so this is somewhat suggestive, and it's unsubstantiated. So I'll say that up front. But people will assume that the ammo shortage is due to overwhelming demand, which I'm sure is the case. I'm sure there is overwhelming demand. There is a possibility that there are large orders going on where people are buying it simply to pull it out of circulation, like billions of rounds. That's entirely possible, and we wouldn't know because the ammunition manufacturers aren't going. They're not like going to talk about that, and that's one of the serious problems with understanding the difference between our conception of capitalism and what capitalism really is stuff like that, where you can have, money come out of nowhere, and then somebody that you don't elect can come and completely change your society at their dictation without any kind of input or recourse from the civil society. And the big thing about the German Revolution, which is the carryover to now, is that this their socialist revolution, when it started in the Navy, when Germany was going to, they were going to, basically a bunch of actual veterans from the war were standing by waiting to do a final blow to England, because England started pulling ships in around Germany, and the German Navy is super gung-ho, or was at this point, really hardcore Navy. And so they were all your naval stuff is based off of German Navy in that era. But Germany was like, when do we get to hit them? When do we get to hit them? And then basically the government just kind of seceded, and they were they just kind of forfeited. And then the German Navy was like, we're probably going to die anyway. Let's just go attack England. So they were going to attack the British Navy after the war was technically done, on their own. And that prompted the sleeper cells in the Navy that were socialists to come out and start riots in the naval yard. And so they started a huge riot. The only purpose of the riot was to create so much confusion that the Germans couldn't deploy the ship to go do a surprise attack after the fact, which by the way would have been epic, because it's terrible because a lot of people would have died on both sides, but it's never been done before. That's what's crazy about it. So they were just going to go do it, knowing, even though they were going to lose, they were just going to go do a naval attack. The socialists stopped it, and the main guy, this is where I wanted a link from, the main guy in the naval riot, the socialist riot that instigated the entire thing, ended up hanging out and pulling back after that, and then stuck around in the background through the entire like World War II process while the Germans were like battling socialism prior to Nazism. And then when Nazism gets there, he's like still in the background, but he's working against Germany the entire time. When Germany finally falls, and then they make East Germany after the war, they make the USSR controlled East German satellite state. The dude from the naval yard that did the riot gets like a high ranking fucking socialist position in like the in like a administrative position in like the Department of Education or something. I can't remember exactly. This is where the links would come from, but you can look it up. The specifics. It's just now. What's fascinating about that is to show it really demonstrates that like there is a track of like what the outcome is supposed to be, and that people can really disorient and confuse that track and throw a wrench in it, but it always goes back. And this is an example of that, where you got this guy all the way in World War I, like popping off some like kind of he's basically exposing himself by what's really going on here is that he's a part of a cell that understands what's going on, that no one else understands what's going on, and he is embedded into the Navy. So he's like a spy, and the German Navy is going to do a legitimate surprise attack that is going to fuck up the entire program. So he takes it upon himself to like, okay, we are launching a controlled riot to like slow this train down so that we don't do this because this isn't with our program. And then he has to, stand by during, a really long period until the end. And then they're like, okay, good boy, here's a cookie. And they give him a position. And that's because that's the entire, like that was the train track. The entire, like Germany was going to be East Germany. And that was the plan the entire time. That's why they were doing a Soviet revolution in World War I. And then shit just got fucking crazy. And then they had to do some punishment between Weimar and Nazi Germany. But that's kind of like it's parallel to where we're at. Like no matter how crazy this shit gets, no matter what the seeming outcomes are or the circumstances that feel like they break the pattern, they're not true. Like the pattern's not going to break as long as people are participating with our energy source being money coming from these people, because we're just gonna arrive at the East Germany that we were always supposed to be at. And that's the point of that long ass story. It's important to understand this because people have a tendency to really underestimate like how bad this will get, and how much will work, how much is against. It's important to have an idea, a realistic idea of what your opposition is and capabilities, so that you can maneuver. And if you feel like, if you're like, fuck, this is too much to face, all of that means is that you're thinking about your maneuver incorrectly. You're thinking not only are you thinking in the box, not only are you thinking outside the box, but that's not what you need to do. You need to be thinking that there is no box. There's no box at all. And that's the correct way to fight this whole thing.
Well, one of the things that I've realized is that like we've all been programmed to live within our like the little confines of our little life, right? We've been forced to work for fiat currency to get trapped in a cycle of having to work to live and live to work. And people, number one, don't know enough about the history of our country or the history of the world, and they will not see the patterns.
Yeah.
And
So for anybody that's confused about this stuff, just to be clear, just so we're not like cryptic or anything. So what's going on in the United States? Like all of this stuff, although it appears organic, and it's especially if you are vulnerable to party politics and that identity, like the the way in your mind that you see like a certain party or a certain candidate, if you have like a special place in your heart, it's going to emotionally affect your judgment of what's going on. So to give you a perspective that you may not be accustomed to, how I would describe what's really going on. All of this stuff, the Antifa and the Trump riots, these are all the same people, and they are not really. They don't believe in the parties that you believe in. They made them, like a script, like a director writes a film script. They wrote all this stuff and planned it out and executed it with a shitload of people. And
It's so obvious too. You know, they like today.
Yeah.
I sent you something, Cliff. And it was that
Yeah.
Project Veritas. That Project
Yes, I
Veritas or
saw
whatever.
that was with PBS.
The principal lawyer.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it's like they put this stuff in front of us to rile the right up, and it's all to the right. I mean, of course, you know, they're ignoring what the left has done, but the pressure, the real pressure, you know, and I was listening to what Dugan was saying the other day about they're the ones with the power. They're the 2A community. They're the ones that hold it, and I can see where that pressure is coming from to push them over the cliff. You know, you can see it where they drop these things and they show us these things and then censor the right side. You know, they censor the right and then show them a bunch of stuff.
Okay, I want to take a time out right quick and do a little divergence. Mr. Shellnut, you've been with us for quite a long time. You have a couple of notes that you want to ask Dugan. Shoot off one of your bullets.
I guess the one thing I was thinking about, I kind of found it as a joke in response to a Trump comment, and it was in regards to moving the U.S. embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. I said they should have moved it to Gehenna, and I actually looked up where it is, and it's like literally down the street in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to explain that to anybody that doesn't understand?
Yeah, help me understand that too.
Gehenna is also known as the Valley of the Son of Hinnom. You can find it in Wikipedia. Like the heading says, it's thought to be a small valley in Jerusalem in the Hebrew Bible. Gehenna was initially where some kings of Judah sacrificed their children by fire. Thereafter, it was deemed cursed. And it lists references to the book of Jeremiah 7:31 and 19:2 through 26.
So I think that there's a lot of things that we could talk about there. I think because of the I kind of have an expectation of what the audience is here, and I could be incorrect. So I don't really know, but I'm assuming that people aren't really familiar with this kind of stuff.
Most likely not.
You'd be correct.
Okay, so the real I think the most applicable way to discuss that topic is to get into a very careful discussion of what the hell is going on with the Jews, and to do it, it's very difficult because it's difficult for a lot of reasons. Number one, because ultimately, whatever happens is going to happen, and there's no way to predict the future. It is in flux. In terms of the disposition of the Jews to rationalize and understand what is going on, it requires the understanding of their position and their belief. And if you're unable to assume that perspective mentally in context, then it makes it very difficult, and it makes it very difficult to understand, but it also makes it very difficult to be tolerant, right? To have tolerance and or empathy, and that's why. And it's also in another way, it's also you pretty much can't say anything about the Jews without the Jews getting offended in some way. So no matter
the Shabbos Goy is a quote.
Yeah, especially the people who get really offended are going to be the Goy, are going to get the most offended when you talk about Jews. But when you try to get to the, what I mean is the Jews are going to get offended. What I mean is that you could have people that are really paying attention to what's going on and really like riding on the edge of their seat, waiting. And if you start to get into the biblical implications of it, you could not say something right, and then offend somebody. So that's what I mean by that's difficult to talk about.
Theology's a bitch.
It's definitely a tightrope.
Yeah, it's a tightrope, and
Theology's a bitch.
it's extremely esoteric, and the bottom line that I remember in the back of my head is that the Creator made all of this, and what the Creator wants is what the Creator will get, and regardless of what we think about any of this, that's exactly what's going to happen, no matter what.
You just got to accept that.
Yeah.
And do your best.
Now, Mr. Shell, I'm sorry, Dugan, if you're not done with your point, I won't interrupt, but I just want Shell not to be able to get out some of his more vital key points, because he had a couple of history questions for you that can probably educate a lot of people on the same thing with the German Revolution. And he's pretty well versed. I was talking with him a little bit earlier, and definitely a good guy. I didn't even ask him his bullet points, but I'm pretty sure he has a lot of good things written down, and it took him at least a week or two to be able to get everything together. It's
kind of a work in progress, but the as Providence would have it, most of this got relayed in an email to some guy I was talking with earlier. But where to start? I guess one thing that I'm wondering is a reference in the Tanakh about the merchants that made the purple or red dye. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly or thinking of something else.
Well, typically, so purple is typically that would be like associated with royalty. So like royalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, purple and what is it? Royal blue. Those were the two royal colors, from what I remember, for multiple centuries or decades, whatever you want to say.
I think millennia is more accurate.
Millennia, thank you.
It is more of now like dyes. Like now dyes are one of the initial trading commodities for the Jewish International Trade Network, which is very old. But a lot of the valuation of purple, like the colors, are actually through Edom, through like Rome. So like the Romans particularly, and late, like the Macedonians and the end of the Greek Empire, that really valued like purple as like a royal color. A lot of the like early Jewish valuation of material would be like stone, like emeralds and stuff. But that's just like a semantical point. But.
Have you ever heard of
there we go.
Have you ever heard of the Radonites or Radanim?
You're saying RABB?
RADHANIT.
RAD. Say that again. Spell that one more time.
RADHANIT.
I don't think I don't think
the Hebrew is
familiar with that.
RADHANIM.
Okay.
I guess they're an ancient trade network that operated between China, Mesopotamia, and as far into Europe as Germany, from 500 to 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess so a lot of Shallnut stuff is really esoteric, and it kind of required explanation. So the first one we had to stop on I didn't really get into that one, but this one's like. Or did you have a specific question with that, Sean, or do you just want me to talk about that?
I was just wondering if there was a connection between that and I've been looking for the die reference in the Tanakh, and I can't. The only thing I could find so far is
Yeah, you're gonna find
reference.
gems in it. You're gonna find gems and minerals and like what do you call that? Onyx and like for all the 12 tribes, gems,
Yeah,
gemstones. You're gonna find that. You're not gonna find dye because it's so. I guess if I may, I'll just kind of discuss briefly like what kind of like a broader oversight of what you're talking about, if that's okay.
yeah,
Okay, so in a very kind of brutal, kind of dumbed down way that is the only way that I can explain this. The because I don't even know how to explain. I've never even really thought about it very clearly.
I've had multiple people say, "Don't go Barney style. Just give it to it, straight it to the point. You don't have to talk."
Yeah. Okay.
Talk
No, I'm not.
us. We know
Nope.
now.
Nope. I'm not talking lower. I'm just like I don't know if I'm trying to rational. Oh, my battery. Hang on. I'm getting a cord. We got a battery issue. Battery.
Hey, well,
Okay.
All right,
we're
we'll put you
gonna-
on for a moment, and we'll
I'll come back
discuss with the other gentleman. Hey, shall not.
yo, hello,
Yo, can you hear me?
yeah,
All right. So everything going good. Man, I still can't say your damn name. Lobi Vobi.
Lavi Vabai. You can say Levi.
Bye. Okay.
It's Levi. My name's Levi.
All right, there we go. All right, we'll just go with the Levi. I'm looking at that. I'm like Lobo Vobi.
Code
I'm
word,
like,
man.
I read that book to my kids to bed this night. But
It's this old high
all right,
school thing, man.
we want to be able. Yeah, we want to be able to give everybody a chance to be able to speak, and obviously, you guys are in the street yard right now. So if you were to click down and chat and see everybody that's chatting, you're still on camera, but just know that we're trying to reach out to a broad audience, and we're trying to bring as much information. Esoteric stuff shall not completely fine. We love it, but at the same time, and same with you, Levi, or Levy. Oh my God, no,
Bobby.
Levy, Levi, Lobby, Bobby, whatever, man.
Yeah.
We just want to be able to keep this open to the point where everybody can get a grasp and try to touch on different things. And also, we want to be able to ask from both of y'all. Nobody's a motherfucker here unless. But no, we want to be able to also ask upon y'all. What do you guys? What have you guys done for self-sufficiency? And I'm gonna let Levi go first, and then shall not. I'll let you go after. But for independent self-sufficiency, and why did you come to that decision, and what did you do for that? And when you're done, just say, "All right, I'm good," and then we'll let shall not go next. So I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Okay. I've always been myself a really self-sufficient individual. I was raised that way with a real hard work ethic. I'll work myself right into the ground. But the political climate, I've been paying attention for quite a long time. The political climate over the last 15 years, I've been paying attention. And the last president, Mr. Obama, I saw 8 years of total division, complete and total division, and then a complete utter disrespect for our economy and driving it into the ground. And it really got me thinking. I'm a carpenter by trade. My whole life I've been building houses, log homes, timber homes, structural, just conventional framing. And I've been doing it I've been eating it, sleeping it, breathing it my entire life. And I do all my own mechanics. I've never taken a vehicle in to a mechanic. I've rebuilt transmissions. I've just always taken it on myself to do anything I possibly could to save money my whole life, wherever I could, to be self-sufficient. And that's something my grandpa and my dad instilled in me immensely. And seeing the divide in this from Barack Obama and well, I mean, several administrations, but seeing the divide in this administration and how heavy it's been hitting us and weighing on us.
It was strategic.
What was that?
It was strategic.
Strategic, totally strategic, and it's obvious, and especially if you haven't been paying attention and you're confused and you take a step back and really just take it all in, as much information as you can, but just listen. You know, we can learn a lot by listening. But this last 4 years, I've really been listening, and I've realized that I've been hoodwinked. So I knew that something was going to happen. I wasn't sure, you know, we're all into prepping. We've all been there. We've all, you know, anybody that can think for themselves or do anything for themselves is prepped out some way, somehow. But this last election, I decided, okay, I'm going to have to get self-sufficient. And I started kind of searching for those kind of things on YouTube, how to get, you know, learning things that I didn't know before. And when I found your guys' podcast, I was listening to you guys talk and Dugan talk about the self-sufficiency and realizing, you know, what really made it click for me was that podcast where Dugan was talking about our birthright, and he was talking about Edom. And I started thinking about it in my own mind and doing a little bit of research, not too much. I didn't want to get too involved in it, but I started really thinking about it. And it came to the point where I realized that we have a birth certificate right at our birth, and we're issued a number, and they're like what Dugan said, we're contracted. Our life is contracted. That's how I came to terms with it and saw it. And if you don't want to be part of this monetary system, or as the least footprint you can leave in this monetary footprint is where I want to go with my life. And so I started taking steps to where, like, you know, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, we've all have seen the false flags. But if something happens, if rolling blackouts happen, if martial law happens, and none of us know what's going to happen, we can all speculate. But if it happens, I want to be at least ready. Like Dugan said, make sure you have essentials, you know, good water, drinking water. You need water. Heat is a big one. Where I live, we need heat, man. It gets freaking cold in the winter. And so I, you know, devising little plans, figuring out how to make my wood stove more mobile, to where if something were to happen, the lights went out, you know, we have kerosene lanterns, and if the lights go out, power goes out, and we have no heat, and it's totally possible. I mean, we've seen it happen all over the place. I mean, I think it was 2005, Russia shut Europe off with their oil. I don't know if that's the exact year or not. I could be wrong on that, but Russia literally shut Europe off. Good night. You're not, you know, and people were freezing to death. And so it's the little things like that. You know, have a backup plan for yourself, self-efficiency, build something to where you can, you know, get a wood stove in your house if you had to. You know what I mean? I'm not saying to go put a wood stove in your house. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but have an option.
I'll tell them to put a wood stove in their house. Put a wood stove in your house.
Put a wood stove in your house.
Do it.
Thanks, Dude. But you know, it's just it's small option, one small example of a way to be self-sufficient. And I've got water figured out, you know, I've got heat figured out. I kind of have a handle on electricity. That one's a little rough for me yet, but Dugan really got me interested in this gasification process and this pyrolysis. I'm really interested.
I'm an electrician. Hey, I'm an electrician. You got any questions? I'll help you out, brother.
And I will.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start welding up. I've been collecting some old tanks and stuff. You know, I'm gonna go to the junkyard, the scrap yard here. I've been collecting some old water tanks, you know, from water heaters and stuff. And I'm I'm gonna start welding some stuff up, and more than one. I'm gonna try to make something kind of mobile, a little smaller, a little more efficient, something that you can maybe run a chainsaw on. Because I can pretty much do anything with a freaking chainsaw, man. You give me a chainsaw, if I can run that chainsaw on my own energy, I'll build a freaking house. I'll go into the woods and I'll build a house with what's there. That's not an issue for me. So I've got that kind of stuff figured out, and that's huge. Another thing, community, man, your neighbors, get to know your neighbors. You know what I mean? If you're a hunter, you shoot a deer, go knock on his door if he goes on his land and talk to him, talk with him for a bit, get to know him, pick his brain, figure out where he's at.
Hey, could I interrupt you to add something value-added statement to what you're saying?
Absolutely.
So a huge thing, like, you made, like, I kind of noticed this today with this with the guy that I was hearing complain about, the current political situation and the confusion they're in. So, like, people are going to get to where they realize that this, like, the direction that we're heading is not going to work, and that they're going to need something radically different, and they're going to be preyed upon to try to keep them in the same game in any way possible. But the big way that that is kind of counterintuitive at first, everybody that's got a house has a registered address, and it's really huge if you can get a piece of land and buy it on a land trust. Then your name doesn't have to be on it, and then once you have that piece of land, you can use it as a secondary, even if it's a small piece of land, that you can then build a cabin or put an RV on it, or even a truck, like you live in a truck. I mean, whatever. I'm saying that there's different scales for every budget and capability. And when you do that, what's significant about it is that you don't have you're not in any data for searching. So they can't go down a list and say, like, well, you're here. They have to physically be present and find you, and then identify you, and then they have to come up with a reason for why they're even there in the first place, because it would be illegal for them to be fucking with you in the first place.
Because we ain't taking a fucking vaccine. Yeah,
right. So this is like one of the, if you can pull that part of it off, and it's kind of a big step depending on how you do it, like how far you want to go with building and stuff. But if you get a piece of land that's not registered as an address, and you don't get any services there, and you just use it as like the experimental grounds to build your completely independent domicile, like, especially if you can afford to do it secondarily to your primary, then it gives you like a good transition period over the years. And then anytime that shit gets too hot, you can always just rough it and just go over there, and then you're like, well, I guess we're here now. But at least you have it as a second option, and they're not going to find you unless they're like sending patrols out there. And even if they do that, you have to remember that tyranny requires the face of, correctness, in the face of justice, in the face of they have to look like they're doing the right thing. So they have to have like a reason for doing it, and it's really hard to do that. If people are fighters, and fighters are doing this only, then it makes it really easy to be like, well, the fighters are leaving their houses and going in the woods, and they're hiding into woods. But if civilians are doing it, and everybody's doing it, and responsible, I mean, not like fighters aren't responsible, but if people that are non-combatants, that are just citizens of the nation, are doing it to be free, and everybody's doing it, it makes it a very difficult proposition to bring the hammer down on them, because there's no, the excuse is very far away from where we are. I mean, you'd have to pretty much take the mask off and be like, we're just here to fuck your shit up, to be able to mess with somebody that's like on their own land.
And that's something I've been trying to do. I've been actually speaking with my father about that, about getting a piece of land, middle of fucking nowhere, at the end of a dead end road, and no fire number. I've been something that's on the back of my mind, which is kind of leads me into another thing with family, the division that's being created in the family. Now, my dad is real right wing. He's a Trump supporter. Bless his heart. He's a Trump supporter. But I've been putting little pin drops in his ear, like a little birdie in his ear. I've been trying to slowly kind of open his eyes, trying to get him to remove himself from his situation and his mindset and his opinions that have been put in there. You know what I mean? they programmed him. You know, he's thinking a certain way, and he's almost complicit. Like he won't listen almost, but he's starting to. So it's a glimmer of hope there, and he's starting to actually question his own beliefs, which is great, because I think there a lot of growth is going to come for him. But there's like a lot of friends that I've had in my life. You know, I'm a conservative, and I asked my support for Trump, and it turned a lot of my friends off, and they canceled me from their life. You know, just that's what they do. That's what they do
Well,
now.
yeah, because they're thinking. Because see, in the control mind, the way that, especially with the game, the psychological games that are played on us, when you're not a Trump supporter, that means automatically there's only one other option, and that's socialism. So you're a socialist.
Yeah, there's only two sides to pick from. And I want to comment on one thing really quickly. You know, when talking about the getting a property, you know, throwing an RV or a cabin up on it. By the way, there's a great video on YouTube on I think it was how to build the cheapest cabin, and it was an awesome video for an hour. Aside from that, there's some comments like, well, what do I do? How do I get paid for my job? And things like that. The idea of this, guys, is that, you know, you have a home, you have a place where you live, where your mail is registered and all that. And, you know, as a contingency plan, you have another spot that you can run off to, and that's, you know, not connected to anything that, you know, you could go total gray man on, lone wolf style. And, you know, I don't want you guys thinking that we're saying like go live in the middle of nowhere, you know, off the land and off 1 acre, you know. I just don't want it to get confused. If you can get enough land to homestead to eventually move there permanently, like God willing that we have enough time to do that, that'd be great. But, you know, don't get it confused.
And it's definitely not going to be an easy process. You know, do you know who Heimo Korth is? Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Have you ever seen the show The Last Alaskans on the Discovery Channel?
No.
So these people live in the Arctic Circle, and there's 7 cabin permits that remain. Another freedom grab right here, right? So the government pulled they won't issue any more cabin permits. You can't go into the Arctic and live. So there's 7 people that they couldn't kick off, but they gave them an extended residence stay for their life and their children's lives. And then they're done. No more cabin permits. Nobody can go up there. Well, Heimo Korth is from Appleton, Wisconsin. And he was on that show, and he's been living there since he was, I think, like 21 years old or something in the Arctic, alone. He's been living there. Well, he's not alone. He met, I don't know if she's Inuit or what, but he met his wife up there, married her, raised a family in the middle of nowhere in the Arctic Circle. And one thing that stands out in my mind that he said, and I'll never forget it, he said, everybody has a romantic idea in their mind about what freedom is. And when they see him on the show, they think that they would love to live like that. And what he said is it's a facade. It's not. He goes, you think I'm free. You think it's easy. You think this is just going to be a great life if this is something you choose to do. But there's one thing that most people fail to realize, and it's how freaking hard a work it is to live free. Constant work from the second you wake up in the morning till the second you go to bed at night. It's nonstop work to maintain your freedom.
And that's where they got us. They changed their perspective of what work is to be able to live.
Made it easy.
From 8 to 5 and sitting at a desk or getting some, you know, stupid mundane job. Your work is supposed to be, you know, what creates your homestead and what sustains you and what gives you that freedom. And that's, I even just in chopping firewood, like, and doing things to prep for this potential blackout, like, dude, I was working my ass off.
Hell yeah.
Now, granted, I'm hunting with a hatchet, so I got to go get an axe. But, you know, still, like, it's crazy.
And at the end of the day, after sweating and working and accomplishing goals, when you actually have goals that you accomplish and you obliterate those goals, the value in that, you can't, what you
Dude,
learn in the value, you can never replace that. You can't teach that in a freaking school. You know what I mean?
And
you
Unless,
know how proud I
and
was of that firewood? Light, I sent you and your brother like pictures of the firewood. Like you find value in, you find just gratitude and the ability to accomplish a goal. And that's something that, doesn't happen.
it's yours. Like the huge difference between that and working in a cubicle is that all your work, everything that you do I mean, it doesn't even have to be a cubicle. It could be something where you have pride in your work, doing some kind of labor for something else. But what ends up happening is that you are taking your best hours, like your most prime hours of your day and the most prime years of your life, and you are pouring it into a funnel that goes
Yeah.
all the way up the pyramid and gets harvested at the top. And you get a fraction of the value back in the form of money that is substantially lower value than the direct. Like if you could find a way to a recipe to live and not have to do that and live for yourself, you would keep the 100% value. So in the end, what ends up happening is that your actual time, like you have limited time, that's what it's ultimately about. You're only alive for so long. That time could be multiplied by you keeping 100% of what you choose to do with your time, right? Like instead of having all of your time go to somebody else where you don't get to keep it, and then they give you a fraction of it in a exchange value that's lower than what you gave them, which is necessarily the case for like how, if you analyze economics, that's necessarily the case, because if it wasn't that, then it wouldn't work. So like whoever you're working for that's paying you has to get a greater value out of your work in order to justify them paying you in the first place logically. So when you do work for yourself,
500%.
yeah, and so if you do things yourself, you are actually capitalizing. Like that is true. That is the actual true cap. Like I don't believe in capitalism, but it's hard to say that because when you say that, people think that you're a communist. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that actual capital is between you and your creator, and everything that you need is provided for you, and it's just hidden throughout your entire environment. And this entire game that this beast is playing is to close your eyes so that you can't see that, and that you serve something that is entirely antithetical to why you would ever be here in the first place.
But we're tricked. And so I want to add something real quickly, and then I want to, get to Shelnut and what he's been able to do for his self-sufficiency. They trick you to make you think that, you're, so I'll give an example, right? So we were talking about like someone in a cubicle. Well, there's probably a lot of people out of the 100 people watching now that are like, well, shit, I have an important job. I have, like whatever it is. I was hired to run a company, and over the span of 5 years, I led 3 different companies, and I was tricked and deceived to think that, to operate as if everything was mine, to put, put everything before my family, everything before, my own, self-sufficiency. And I just had this, I was deceived to think that, I was in a different position because my role was important. I was in charge of lives and futures and P&Ls and all this bullshit. Well, guess what? After that 5 years ran up and I was gone, guess what I was left with? Absolutely fucking nothing aside from, that fiat currency that I made within that 5-year time period. From being the CEO of 3 different companies, I left and had absolutely nothing but a delta of 5 years that was taken from my family and myself. And of course, I'm grateful for other things and experiences and shit like that. But the reality is that that's gone. It meant nothing.
There's no value in that, huh?
Yeah, you're left.
Maybe some things you picked up on the way. There's no value in that, really.
Yeah, because it's all organized. So you're not seeing a fractional whatever you're doing. They're not teaching you. They're not going to teach you. The proprietor of whatever the business is at the apex, whoever's like the harvester at the top of all that energy, they have the big picture. Everybody else only has a fragmented picture, and it kind of necessarily has to work like that, or else you're a competitor. So the all that everything that you put into it, it's the same story for people all over the world. They're they if they lost their job, they're left with the exact same thing. Most people are renting everything. Most people are the products are becoming more obsolete right when they come off the line. Like anything that you would buy is cheaper, minimal quality of necessary in order to just get it sold acceptably. The I mean, the whole thing is like it's an entire farce that is it's like self-perpetual, and the this is like the late stage of what people are going to wake up to. And there's a really good there's a very good prophecy. I think it's in Isaiah that says that in the end of days the seller will not mourn and the buyer will not rejoice. And that can be read kind of cryptically, but it's very clear if you kind of think about it for a little while. What they're describing in that prophecy is the state of when you go to buy a product on eBay or whatever. You buy it and it's supposed to be like shipped from somewhere in the United States. It's not shipped from the United States, it's shipped from China. And then it reroutes through California. Then it gets to you and it's fucking broken. You open the package and the fucking thing is popped and you're like, what the fuck? Like, and then you're like, I could call up eBay and complain or whatever, or file the claim against it or whatever, but I'm just so sick of this whole thing, I just don't even give a fuck anymore. And just like, I'll figure out something else to do with that piece of shit. And then the buyer, so you don't rejoice as the buyer, right? The seller, the guy, whoever's at the top of that, he's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm making my money. I'm good to go. Boats and hose. He doesn't care. So he has no remorse. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, in Isaiah, it's not word, they're not going to talk about boats and hose in Isaiah, but you can easily understand that this is what this prophecy is describing. And that's how you truly know that we are at the end of the days.
I have a counter opinion on the dark scenario. Almost 5 years. I think you got something extremely valuable. Any guesses on what that is?
Well, so yes. So I, at the same time, want to make another statement that the experience I've gained in that 5 years and the lesson that I learned from it that has helped me, wake up is priceless, right? Exactly. So I don't want to take away from that. Like that, I am grateful for. And it just so happened. So I willingly left my job on December the 5th. And it was between that December when the Yankee Boogle video came out, and then I started tracking with Dugan's videos in January. And now the rest is it. Like the timing, like this shit was meant to be. My path, my journey was, created for me without my knowing, and it's just fallen into place. So exactly. Yeah, I'm still grateful for that. I don't want to, write that off.
That was one of the points that I wanted to make was there's signs everywhere if you look for them.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Yeah, I guess I should say that even the things that, I know the things it's necessary to look at things alarmingly so that action is created, right? Because if we're not hungry, then we don't move to go get something to eat. If we're not in pain, then we don't try to get out of the position. So it's necessary for a perspective of people to start to come awake, and that is starting to happen. Everything is on purpose. There are no mistakes. Even the things. One of the biggest tricks that's been played on us is to think that when we, and it often comes in the form it's felt most personably when we strive for something that is selfish. So any selfish endeavor for ourselves that we take in life, when we make a mistake, we feel the sting of being a fool the most. But if you orient, hurts bad because it's entirely on you, right? Like you're carrying the entire responsibility and accountability in your heart. Like you could lie and maybe you could deflect it in a conversation. If someone else is watching you, they probably wouldn't judge you as harshly as you judge yourself. But you know in your heart, you're like, this was my endeavor that I wanted to do because I was trying to forge my own way and what I thought I wanted to do. And then, you know, I was a fool about this particular issue or whatever. If you set your sight on something that's bigger and outside of yourself, like truth, in a broad sense, but it could be any particular semantic within that, it makes it so that the responsibility of the sting of that is different. It's like when you're wrong, it's like, well, yeah, I was wrong, but truth is still truth, you know. And so it's not like the burden isn't. It becomes like in a way a lot less. Like it's lifted right off of you, and it gives you a lot more strength to face adversity and challenge and to overcome challenge when you have a solid understanding of what is truth and which direction to head. And it can be really difficult in today's time to figure out and say, you know, to really identify what the hell is actually truth and what is right, and like, how do I quantify this? And that's okay, because all of these questions are elusive to all of mankind, and they always have been. But a really easy one is to do the reciprocal of that, which would be to identify all the things that you know are not truth and that you don't want to do consciously. But what society has been maneuvered to is to push that question out of their mind so that they have to constantly make a choice between two bad decisions, both of which are not the truth, and they know it, but they can't consciously get to the point where they can even acknowledge that, because they're looking around going, this is what we do, and this is the way that it is.
It's too uncomfortable for them at that point, because they've been too adjusted to feeling good and not getting any pushback in, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not when everything all the time, when you get accustomed, you know, like we adapt very easily, both you know, especially if we don't have morals, we can adapt to pretty much anything at all. We get accustomed to always everything that we do being what we perceive as the best of two shit sandwiches. Like, which shit sandwich am I going to eat? That one. Okay, that one's good. Well, just because it's like a better shit sandwich than the other shit sandwich doesn't mean that it's a good shit sandwich. It means that these are all shit sandwiches, and the bigger implication is, how do we stop eating shit sandwiches? And that is really what this is about, this whole thing. And it's the first step. If you can't come to a, you know, if it's confusing trying to identify, you know, like what's right and what's good and truth, can be, you know, it seems simple enough off the tongue, but then when you really try to hammer it down in your mind, it starts to become a lot more elusive, you know, especially when you blend it with all the matters that come along with a modern nation state and all the things that they do.
So much when you're noise.
Yeah, so much noise, and it's so incorporated into everyone's life, just like an IV feed. And so the easiest way is to if you can't readily identify that, if you just identify what you think is wrong, and then if you identify what you think is wrong, and then you say that it's wrong, even if you can't escape it because it's like, you know, you have to pay bills or whatever right now, at least in your mind you're honest with yourself, and then you can start to turn your azimuth to a direction and then begin to make a plan to work for it. And once you decide in your head, you start to paint a map of like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And once you have that map painted, you will, even if, like, let's say you feel like you can't escape that day, but you know you want to, every single day that you go back to having to accept the mundane and what you've been accustomed to, it's going to start to become more and more painful as you like acknowledge it in your heart. And eventually it's going to build up enough motivation to where you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm going to make radical change, and I'm going to fucking figure it out and do it. And then you will do it. But the first step, if you can't identify the map of like of the direction that you need to go, then that's kind of the game of society, of keeping everybody there in the dark, you know, feeding them shit and keeping them in the dark like a mushroom.
It's like Zen, you know, it's like Zen and archery, man. I'm an archer, and I'll hunt with a bow before I hunt with a gun any day of the week. I'm a firm believer in archery. It's like our life. It's like a direct reflection of what is in us. And every mistake I make when I hunt with a bow in archery, it's on me. Everything is on me. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we have to aim small, miss small. In archery, we have to put that arrow where we mean it to go. I feel like it's the same in life. It's a good life lesson. We need to pick our path. We need to see our path. We need to decide what we're going to do, work towards it, see that path, aim small, and we need to put our life there. We need to follow that path.
I think sometimes too, like in my situation, what kind of rings true is that sometimes you have to, be pulled way back to be able to be propelled forward in your life, and that's kind of fallen in my lap a few times. But I want to do this because I know we're at the hour and a half point. I want to be able to address questions in chat, actual questions, not you trolls. So prepare your questions, and let's go back. So shall not. While y'all go ahead, Cliff. You got no audio, Cliff. You have no audio. No. Nope. Everyone just shake your head no. Yeah.
Can you mime?
No. You're good, shall not. Yeah, Cliff. Yep, sorry. So while we get through this awkward moment, and Cliff figures out his bootleg AirPods, let's he'll be back. Shall not share some of the things that you've been able to achieve, and if you haven't been able to achieve some things for self-sufficiency, some things that you intend to do. And while we do that, all the branch Duganians in the chat, think of your questions.
I guess probably the most important one is probably food. This year, I kind of saw the virus coming from a long way off, so I got a real early start. I bought seed potatoes and a bunch of seeds and planted more vegetables than I've ever planted in my life, at least in 1 year, maybe my entire life. I don't know, but
That's awesome.
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
You're present.
I'll let you finish, and then I'll interrupt after.
Yeah, I put seed potatoes in a bunch of fabric pots, like 25-gallon fabric pots, and they were in a less than ideal scenario. Like, I think only about maybe 6 or 7 hours of direct sunlight a day, and I pulled some early just because the first time I ever grew potatoes before, and they I think it was like an average of like 7 pounds of potatoes in every pot. Like the early ones were about 5, and the later ones are about 10. And I've still got probably close to 10 pounds of potatoes sitting in the basement and in a shed outside. And I did onions and beets and what else? Spinach, carrots. And this year, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to get more seed, I let some stuff go to seed so I could harvest my own seed. I got this is something that people should know for the future. Not everything will produce seed in the first year. Like most root vegetables, like beets, carrots, onions, if you want to grow onions again from seed, they all need to overwinter, and then they'll flower and produce seed in the second year.
Yeah, I would recommend food if we're talking about food. So, I like in my own venture into that. What I've found really useful is sorghum, garlic, and beans, and then of course trees. So beans are really good because if you mix beans with rice, you get whole proteins. So you can make whole proteins out of bean combinations for nutrition, which will keep you from starving. The garlic is really important because it is not only, I mean, of course, garlic tastes great, but garlic can be used for a lot of medicinal purposes. You can use it as an antiseptic. You can
Earaches,
kill
or
pathogens with it.
sinus infections.
Yep. It just has a ton of use. Um, the let's see, sorghum. Sorghum is really cool because you can use it for animal feed. You can use it for grain. You can use it for uh, broomsticks. You can use it for or broom heads rather. You can use it for like fiber material for anything that's like a cellulose fiber. So you can make like nitrocellulose out of it. You can make you can make syrup out of it. If you run the cane of sorghum in between two rollers, you can pull syrup out of it. You can also, it's also really good. It's so easy to plant and is so genetically robust that you can really, get a shitload of seeds in a couple of seasons. Like, you can theoretically get hundreds and hundreds of pounds of seed of sorghum in 3 years. The you can use it as a screening fence, and you can leave it up without harvesting, and it'll stay up all winter. And you can do perimeters where you plant it really tight, and you can tell if like a deer passed through it or if a person passed through it because it'll knock it over. If you don't pick it, it'll feed birds and wildlife. It's just a very, and the way that you plant sorghum is you just cast it. So I mean it's there's nothing to that. So those are really great, and you can save seed from all of them. Garlic is probably the most interesting one to save seed on. It has two phases. One of them is a what's called a bulbil, and one of them is a like an actual clove. And those are like each year. You got 1 year for one, and then a year for the next one. And then once you get clove, you can replant clove, and each clove is becomes an entire bulb of garlic.
I'm actually going to be planting. Dugan actually sent me some garlic a month or two ago. I've been keeping it, let it dry out just enough. I'm about to germinate it and then start planting it to within the next couple of days. I just got a plot set up. The bulbous or bulbi, whatever you want to call it, they take about 2 seasons or 2 years to grow into full cloves. But after the first year, you can grab more bulbi or bulbous, whatever they are, and then start replanting them again. But the original ones are going to be able to produce after the second year full cloves. And that's how you're able to start up a little garlic army. It's pretty ingenious. It's awesome, and there's flavors that you've never expected you would ever taste. One thing that I do want to add, because I've seen a lot of people mention Wan Wan. He's been a troll for time and time again, and Dugan's made a couple of videos for him. And if anybody knows Juan Juan, or if Juan Juan wants to be a part of the podcast or the live stream, we definitely want to have you on here, brother. Trust me,
Absolutely, bring them on.
Dugan definitely wants to discuss some things with you.
If you know Juan Juan, or if you know Juan Juan Station Chief, we definitely want to have him on.
Reach out to Juan Juan, make sure he's okay, make sure he didn't drink the Kool-Aid with some other cult, and we'll be good from there. Gentlemen, is there anything else you guys want to add? I know we're keeping up Dugan a little bit too late tonight. I know he's
I want to
reserved.
add
He's trying to
one
get a
more
couple
thing.
things done.
One more thing
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
to a natural way to keep small critters from eating your garden is to seed the area around your property with stuff like clover. If they've got enough food, it's highly unlikely that they're going to go after your garden.
Yeah, that's
Deer
great.
are easily repulsed. Go ahead, Dugan. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that's absolutely true. And the other thing, if you do clover, you don't have to mow grass. So I've been in like a 2-year battle of replacing grass with clover, and it's pretty incredible. I love it.
Clover's way better than grass.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and also
I'll jump in on that.
Nitrogen
Clover is
fixer.
better. There are
Improves the
also a
soil.
lot of nitrogen enhancer. Yep. There's a lot of other things that you can plant also that are beneficial plants that are highly pungent that keep away deer and other animals like that. Reach out at darklightdugan.com. I can help you out with agricultural tips, composting, seed starting, stuff like that. Or if you want to be a part of the podcast or YouTube stream, let me know. I'm going to put myself on mute. I'll let you guys go from there.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll bail out of here. You guys, appreciate you having me on. Thanks for having me on.
dude, thank you. I believe both of you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
both
And
of
I
you
hope,
guys.
everyone in the comments.
Hey, Levi.
What's up, man?
Hey, Levi. I mentioned you as the faggot guy, the guy who got
that's
offended
okay,
by
man.
the comment, and I said to everybody that it was a sarcastic remark. He wasn't offended,
Yep.
so don't take that the wrong way. So,
Brother,
love you, man.
I'm not offended, man. I'm not offended. Hey, you're only gay if you're taking the pipe. Hey, so everyone in the comments, I hope I didn't offend anybody tonight too. The whole bow hunter thing, you guys, look, I got nothing against guns. I'll harvest deer with guns too. There's no arrogance there. You know what I mean? Just to put that out there. And final word for me, man. Life's a garden. Dig it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, hey, thank you for coming on, man. Man, we love you,
We
dude.
appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Dude, it was nice talking to you. Cliff, Dark Light, you guys are awesome. I love you guys. I love what you're doing. Can't wait for more.
Hell yeah, man.
Definitely, brother.
Sooner.
Look,
Later. Shalnad, thank you as well for joining us, man. It's been. I actually. Do you mind if I shout out some of the videos?
Yeah, good to be on.
Shall not. Our lawyers are gonna get a hold of you about you copyrighting our intellectual property.
No,
it's a joke. It's a joke. Fucking spread the word, man. Spread the word, brother. I'm gonna go on mute again.
I was impressed. When I read your email, you struck me as a really, intellectual person. Seriously, I mean, I was going to jump in and actually read some of your email there for a minute because I was really impressed. But you know how these streams are, man. Like you jump in and you got 5 people feedbacking off each other, so you did great. But did you make?
Yeah, I had a little stage fright.
You're good, man. You're good. Did you make those videos on your YouTube? Like with the Doors song on the train tracks and.
Yeah, I took some of Doug's old videos or stuff he uploaded from the Meshuggah Ben No One.
Bro, I was. I'm not sure what your intention was with that video, and I'd recommend that anyone in the comments and still in here go on and watch that video. There's a video of 3 kids walking down the train tracks with the that Doors song.
I think it's titled "My Eyes Have Seen You."
My Eyes Have Seen You. Yeah, and tell me, watch it once. You may need to watch it twice, and tell me that isn't an exact description of where we are as a country right now. we keep seeing that the train is coming. We know we are willingly and intentionally walking on train tracks.
Get
But
off the
we
You
tracks.
know
still
what?
need
You
the
know what I
warning.
realized? We didn't answer. So Shalna, did you want to talk about any of the earlier questions? Because we didn't answer any of the early ones.
Yeah, shall not.
Which ones are
If
those?
you want to throw out a list, and we'll let Doug knock any one of them or all of them out of the park. Just
I mean,
throw
if you
out
want,
a list.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
give the opportunity because we didn't
Yeah, one thing I
basically
wanted to mention for anyone that wants to do research on something that I've found that works really good. If you're on Wikipedia, go, type in whatever and hit the Wikipedia link for the thing you're looking for. Open every tab and then type keywords into the search bar and then just scroll through them. And you'll be able to pick out whatever it is real fast.
What questions, what other bullet points did you have to ask Doug? Because you said that you had a couple things that you wanted to ask him. Just lay them out, just like rapid fire, and Doug will pick and choose, or we can all jump in. All depends, but just lay them all out there. I
Okay.
know you've heard the podcast. Just put them out there, and we'll go from there.
One thing I've been looking at that seems kind of odd to me is the origin of the Hebrew language, like the Paleo Hebrew or Proto Hebrew. Specifically, the one that caught my attention was I think I highlighted it and then did an internal search on my phone, and it popped up with for Aleph, Aleph, and it had the weird thing was Siri had the image for the Proto-Hebraic Aleph, and it says, let's see, just a second. It's like the shape of an ox, and I thought that was kind of weird, especially with the relation to idolatry in the Tanakh. And
Were you saying like the Egyptian Ankhs,
no,
the
it's
Omega?
it's the Aleph. I believe it's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and in Proto-Hebrew, it looks nothing like the biblical Hebrew or modern Hebrew. It's like in the shape of an ox head with a set of horns.
Yeah, but what's the is there an inference?
Just let's see. I guess the one of the last things I found was the supposed precursor to Hebrew, which is, according to Wikipedia, is Yahwism, and in the Wikipedia page it says that it's represented by an ox or a bull, and like in the
But Shauna, you're really dancing around what do you really want to ask?
yeah, I really don't know. It's like there's a picture that's being painted by all this weird shit, and there's really only one thing that makes sense. It's like
Just out with it. Out with it.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure how to put it into words really right now.
Okay, that's fine. How about I'll just talk.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is like the connection to the Erev Rav and the golden calf and you know, the sacrifices in Gehinnom and shit like that. It all seems to kind of connect and paint a picture.
Mm-hmm. What kind of like in a broad way, without pinning yourself down into a commitment, what kind of flavor of a picture does it paint?
I guess I would say whoever was behind the formation of the Proto-Hebrew was the Erev Rav.
So basically, you're asking the precursor of Judaism's Erev Rav.
I'm not sure if that makes much sense, but
where Erev Rav has come from before Judaism was fully indoctrinated.
Yeah, so with Hebrew language, especially like I'm an English speaker, so it's Hebrew language is very you know, if your reference of language is English for a listener, for anyone that's listening to this, just to kind of try to tear into this a little bit, Hebrew and its chronology and morphology is very different than a lot of other languages in both that it's been around for a very long time, and that it is a, like, for example, like modern Hebrew is only just made. Probably I don't know when they started making it, but I would guess they're probably like 100 years.
That's what I was going to say.
For modern Hebrew. And this is so modern Hebrew is made by the Rothschilds. So the Rothschilds invested, particularly it would be the French Rothschild house. I think that's Walter Rothschild. Would have invested pre-Zionism, so before Zionism and socialism came out in the world. There was a big effort post. This would have been like post Theodore Herzl, and or no, I'm sorry, pre Theodore Herzl, post Moses Hess. To develop a new language, the modern Hebrew. And the modern Hebrew has a lot of aspects from biblical Hebrew stripped from it, so that it hides the importance of the original language. And so that's in terms of like the two most modern forms of Hebrew. In terms of anything that's like a Proto-Hebrew, I wouldn't be able to speak on it just because I wouldn't know anything about it. Anything that I could speculate would just be speculation. But the language in itself has a very different, that family of languages has a very different history than something like English. But language is extremely important, and etymology is extremely important because it encapsulates historical chronology, and
patterns of movement of people.
And patterns of movements of people. That's right. And so when history is lied about, you can decipher and pull out
the truth,
benchmarkers and truths out of the by following language, and particularly the best way to do that. It's kind of, if you're not familiar with this, it's the easiest way to describe it would be if you took like a word, you can trace the development of a word through all of its known historical lineage and passing between people, and then you can understand like approximately who's in contact with who and what's going on. And you can do the same thing with commodities. So we were talking earlier about dyes and things like that. We're talking about purple dye and its kind of embodiment as a symbol of wealth and social status. Shalnat was talking about how he was having difficulty finding reference to it in Tanakh, and that would be true, and it's because it is it is more heavily influenced by the Greeks and the Romans than it is from the Jews. Now, what like particularly
That's
dyes.
another thing I wanted to bring up was the Hellenization of Hebrew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so you know, so what's going on right now in the United States and how we paralleled it in the beginning of the stream to Germany and Russian socialist revolutions. It's not just with them. I mean, there's like, I've read shit from like Greek politicians that wrote historical stuff about like how the Jews, when they would have parades, would be like the most patriotic Greeks. Like they'd be more patriotic than the Greeks, and they would always be the loudest. And so this is like a very old phenomenon. And like the in terms of the dyes and things like that. So the trade routes. So talking about money, which we didn't we didn't particularly talk about like currency or like the actual physical representation of money in this episode, but we talked about it in the past. And one of the things that I feel is important to communicate to people is the understanding that money is not a physical thing, and that it has no crossover into physicality at all whatsoever. So at no point in time, if you trace the identity, if you hammer out the identity of what money is in any of its forms in any century, you can't come to any conclusion except that this is an entirely abstract thing that is not physical, meaning that it is non-physical. It doesn't grow on trees. There's no like math doesn't grow on trees, numbers don't grow on trees, and neither does the technology of money. But we sort of imbue it into a physical form with currencies and things like that. The way that our money rises and falls through the millennia is and why Jews are able to maneuver on goy is because the actual abstraction of what money is embodied in the relationship between people in exchange. And when you use money, it is a non-physical weapon that is used to take and strip physicality from people. And so the actual, like what actually money is in between currencies falling through empires and centuries is the trade route. So like the trade relationship between a merchant and a people or a market or a kingship is the actual spinal cord of what money is. The coinage and the paper and the specie coin or the commodity gold or silver, precious metals, jewels, all of these things are entirely. I mean, the word jewel is the etymology of jewel is Jew. If you didn't know
That's
that, it
one
comes.
I looked up recently, and almost everything dances around that, except for
Yeah,
like
it is.
I
It
found
is. It is.
one post on Quora where it appeared to be a Jewish person who didn't shy away from it. They said something like
In a snub. They did it in a snub nose way. They did it in a smart way, right? Where they answered
Hey,
it.
not
let me.
just
Yeah.
that, but it was like
I was
what did
gonna.
they say?
I'll let
Jews
you
and
finish
jewels are
your
alike,
thought.
as
Shall not.
they are both
All right.
initially rough and need
Mm,
like cutting and sharpening. Gems need cutting and sharpening with tools, and Jews cut and
right. Right.
sharpen and beautify themselves with study of Torah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the etymology of the jewel is absolutely Jew. Now that's a latter thing. That would be like 1400s or later. But jewels themselves go back way longer than that. Um, the actual etymology of like Jew, so J is like something that's obviously post Roman Empire. So like in Latin, there's no J. It'd be I. Be you. And Jew is a goy word, and that's what's like really interesting about the whole relationship is that the Jew maintains something like the relationship in trade between parties to establish the control of the scepter, and the goy does things that are more like wispy, like the unknowing transformation of language and things like that, and then the Jew will adopt it. And this is evident in both like how the Jews will adopt the surname modifications of the host nation. So like the last one was
Goldstein.
Germany. Yeah. Now these are all from they adopt the defeated form of Edom in order to follow Edom to the next place and to integrate with them in the next place, and that's really what it's for ultimately, like in terms of the mechanical function of it. The in terms of
Gentlemen,
the
I'm
Yeah, we're
sorry,
just past the 2 hour mark.
Yeah, we're coming up by the end. We wanted
Don't
to give.
stop now.
I'm sorry, man. We wanted to give Doug time to be able to rest, but also we wanted to be able to give some of the chat the ability to actually ask a question. And Doug, we love your time, and we know your time is valuable, and you have a lot of things that you're trying to knock out. And shall not, we love you, brother. But we want to be able to give a couple other people the opportunity to ask a couple questions before we wrap this up. Is that okay with you, Doug?
yeah, whatever.
I don't
one
know
of the
how long
questions
you want to
here.
stay on, brother. That's the whole thing. I'm trying to manage time to look out for you, man.
My laptop is about to die, which will make all of us have an early night here.
Let's call it. Let's call it then.
So real quick, just some final questions. JMFM says, Doug, philanthropy and cultural imperialism, the court you, what book next? Ask Dugan for the next book recommendations when Shall Not is done.
About Jews?
That's all I got.
Somebody sent me a really interesting book, the Guns of Krupp, which is like the history of the Krupp gun factory and its relationship to Germany. I'm like still reading that, but it's a really interesting book.
Nice. Okay, cool. There were some other questions here too about Hillary Clinton's emails about Gilgamesh.
Somebody post a quick question, a legitimate question. We got 2 more questions to answer, and then we're gonna sign off for the night.
Who would win in a fight, Kamala or Joe Biden?
I saw that Joe Biden would lose in a fight to win.
Yeah. I want to double down on book recommendations.
QAnon. Nobody's asking any good questions, Doug. Oh, what Bible would you recommend? What Bible would you recommend?
That's a good one.
Orthodox Jewish Bible.
All right.
Hey, Doug, does that have translations for the funny words?
No, you don't. You don't want the translations. You want to look up the original. You want to do a direct translation.
Yeah, but
like
if you're gonna get a physical book, you should probably get a English to Hebrew translation also.
Yeah, it'll be biblical Hebrew.
This is from Eyes to See, Ears to Hear. If the Trump coming back scenario doesn't play out, does the Biden scenario meet the same end goal but without shots fired domestically? We still go to war with China, but it's more of a clandestine op.
No, I don't know. I don't know what that. So you're going to go to war with China, and it's going to result in the destruction of both of your countries. And that's what's going to happen. There's no way around it.
For the person asking about what
I would disagree. I think there's always a way around it.
Well, there is a way around it, of course. This is in men's hands, but in terms of the program right now, nobody's woken up. or at least in any kind of significant degree. As long as that continues, the path will keep going on the same path, and that is the path. That is where you're going with this path. That's the intent.
Everyone out there listening, you can help stop it.
Yeah, Mr. Tech Tie, it's not that I want to sign off early, it's that I'm respectful of Dugan's time. And I know it beats him up that he spends a lot of time over here with us and passing on a lot of good information that we're trying to pass on to y'all. But at the same time, this gentleman is torn between his life, his work, and what he's also trying to bring us. So it's not that I'm trying to rush anybody off. It's just I'm trying to be respectful.
Well,
And
at this point, Dark's phone is going to die, so you should probably. I mean, that kind of takes precedent.
And then we go bye-bye.
So a lot of people are asking about. I was just going to say, a lot of people are asking about magazines. I'm a PMag guy, but some other guys on here are aluminum mags. Just make sure the aluminum mags aren't the old BS green followers. I like the D&H with Magpul followers. AK mags, go Circle 10 or the surplus metal mags. Just buy good mags. That's my answer.
Like Dugan said on one of the videos that we did, AKs were really cool back when they were $300, but go AR-15. Anybody have anything? Does anybody have anything for giving out information on independence or self-sufficiency? Or we're just going to call it a night, gentlemen?
Yeah, I think we call it a night.
All right, we're going to call it night. Look up.
I do have one. I got one tip.
All right.
If you're out there and you're kind of lost, look for the signs. They are out there.
Oh wait, there's a good question on here. It just popped up. So this question is: if the Trump coming back scenario doesn't play out, does the Biden scenario meet the same end goal, but without shots fired domestically? We still go to war with China, but it's more of a clandestine op. Oh, that's the one that you already read.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch it when you read that. I didn't catch the first part of it. I just answered the second part. So the first part of it, Trump coming back is there's basically the only way. Now there is a way that Trump doesn't come back, and that's if everybody figures out that it's fake. If you could get everybody to figure out it's fake, then he won't come back. If they can actually calculate by measuring social media that people are tricked enough to make it work, they'll still try it, even if there's a good number of people that know that it's fake. So at this point, you have very extremely like if Trump doesn't come back and they collapse that and go full Biden, I mean, it's going to get really, really rough really fast because they're just going to have to push forward to whatever the next thing is, and they're going to have less of a gradual grade into the slide. They're just going to have to kind of jaggedly skip ahead and use a little bit more force. So that could get it's virtually like there's virtually no future where things go back to any kind of semi-normalcy and you have Biden being the president. It's basically can't happen. Trump could get assassinated. That would really spice things up.
Yeah. That would probably kick things off more than anything else.
Yeah.
Deep fake Zapruder film, maybe.
Hey, I saw the Zapruder film, the original one. JFK shot first. That was from a movie. I'm sorry if anybody gets that. All right, gentlemen. I think this would be perfect time to call it. Love y'all. I hope everybody does well. Hopefully we can produce more content and be able to start doing some do-it-yourself self-sufficiency things here on this channel. And we're looking for more guests on the stream and on the podcast. So reach out to us at darklightdugan@gmail.com or the darkest mavis @gmail.com. And
Yeah, just
Doug,
to
do you
throw
have
this
any
out there
final?
real quick, like just to, in the email that was shared, it was darkestmavis@gmail.com. Just so y'all know, it is actually the darkestmavis at
Oh, my bad.
gmail.com, and I'll share that in chat.
Doug, do you have anything to say, parting notes before we drop the stream?
Nope. You guys really need to be getting ready, and take a fucking chance if you want to, but I don't think I think it's in your best interest to kind of prepare yourself, serve yourself a little bit now, so you can serve others later.
Yeah, help
Yeah.
people.
And for all the people asking about the thing on the wall, that's airsoft. I'm big into airsoft. I play daily, so
He's a regional and national and international champion. He's got the gold
Yep.
medal. Yeah.
Yep. You can see my gold medal sitting in the magazine there. Yeah, I actually play internationally in China all the time. China. All right, y'all. Thank you, guys.
Olympic Games.
All
Love
right,
you guys.
gentlemen.
Have a good night.
Love
Love
you guys.
y'all. Bye.
Peace.